All right, let's dive right in. Now, if you've ever been part of a software team, you probably have this classic image of a developer, right? Headphones on, laser focused on lines of code. But here's the thing. In a modern Scrum team, that's really just the tip of the iceberg. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on a role that is so much more collaborative, strategic, and frankly essential to success than most people think.
So that brings us to the big question. What does a Scrum developer really do? I mean, yeah, the official guide lays it out, but years and years of old habits from other ways of working have created this fog of misunderstanding around the role. So let's clear the air and take a look at what the framework actually wants from a developer.
To really get what the modern role is all about, we first have to talk about the stereotype. You know the one. It's a very common, but incredibly narrow, view of what a developer's job is.
Yeah, this is that classic code monkey stereotype. A task just kind of appears, the developer codes the solution, and that's it. End of story. They're seen as just an implementer, a pair of hands to execute a plan that someone else made. But a healthy Scrum environment, it completely flips this idea on its head.
Okay, so let's bust that myth right now. The reality is, a developer is far from a passive person just waiting for work. They are an active, influential partner in the whole process, and it all starts long before the first line of code ever gets written.
Let's kick things off with the first big myth, that developers just sit around and wait for perfectly defined instructions to land on their desk. This belief, honestly, it reduces them to problem solvers who only care about the how, with zero input on the what, or maybe most importantly, the why.
And the contrast you see here, it's everything. The old myth sees a developer as this isolated coder. But the reality in Scrum, it's a partner who actively shapes the work. They don't just take orders. They ask the tough questions, they clarify the goals, and they are absolutely central to the planning process. And that brings us to a really key activity, refinement.
So what in the world is refinement? Well, first off, it's not some formal, stuffy meeting. It's this continuous activity of getting future work ready. You can think of it like the team's huddle before the next play. They're discussing items, asking questions, and making sure everything is clear and sized up before they ever even think about committing to it in a sprint.
And in refinement, developers are, and I mean this, indispensable. They're the technical reality check. They help write and really understand the backlog items. They're the ones who provide the sizing and complexity estimates. And they help clarify the acceptance criteria, defining exactly what done is going to look like. Without their input, all that planning is just pure guesswork.
Okay, so we've established that developers are key to defining the what. But what about the how on a much bigger scale? This brings us to another huge misconception. And this one is all about technical design and architecture.
You've probably seen this before. It's the stereotype of the lone genius architect, handing down these perfect technical blueprints from some ivory tower. And in that model, developers are just there to build the house, not help design it. And this is where Scrum makes a really radical break from tradition. It intentionally gets rid of the dedicated architect role. And the reason is simple. It puts the technical decisions in the hands of the people who are closest to the work, the developers themselves. Technical leadership becomes a shared, collaborative responsibility.
Now, this is all powered by a concept called evolutionary architecture. The idea is pretty simple, actually. Creating a perfect, rigid blueprint up front is basically impossible because you learn so much as you build. So instead, the architecture evolves. It adapts and it improves every single sprint as the developers learn more about the system and what the users actually need.
Now hold on, this doesn't mean it's a total free-for-all. Not at all. It's actually a very structured process. The team establishes guiding principles. Think of them as their shared rules for building things the right way. They hold dedicated technical discussions to collaborate on challenges, and through all this, they allow the architecture to evolve, keeping it strong and flexible as the product grows.
So when you combine their role in planning with their ownership of the architecture, a whole new picture starts to emerge. They aren't just coders. They are the true guardians of the product that gets shipped out the door.
So a great way to think about the modern Scrum developer is that they wear 3 hats. They're the estimator, bringing that dose of technical reality to all the planning. They're the architect, collaboratively owning the system's design. And maybe most importantly, they're the quality guardian. Because at the end of the day, they're the ones accountable for delivering a valuable, working piece of the product, the increment, at the end of every single sprint.
So why is this empowered role so important? Why does it matter so much? Because it's not just some philosophical change in how we think. it produces dramatically better results. And the impact of this empowerment is huge. When developers have real authority and ownership, you see these tangible results. You get better products because the technical expertise is baked in from the start, not just bolted on at the end. You get more motivated teams because, let's face it, ownership is a powerful driver. And ultimately, you get higher quality because the people building the thing are also the ones accountable for it being great.
And this quote right here is just the perfect summary of everything we've been talking about. In Scrum, developers are not just implementers. They are the architects, estimators, and quality guardians, all rolled into one.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to take with you. Take a look at your own team, your own organization. Are your developers truly empowered to be those architects and estimators? Or are they kind of stuck in that old stereotype of just being coders? Really ask yourself, is your team unlocking its developers' full potential?